Hi guys, this is the Casual Fan. So the 2023 Formula 1 season will kickstart this weekend. We've had the preseason test in Bahrain last week. There is a rough idea of how the pecking order will shape up this weekend, but still there are a lot of questions. Now I'm not here to answer all those questions. This video is all about bold predictions. Now a lot will be revealed on Friday when we have the first free practice and the second one, but we're not talking about all those things. This video is precisely about just sharing my top 5 bold predictions for this race weekend. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. Now at number 5, I have midfield will be all over the place. Now what I mean by this is that from P5, the 5th fastest team on the grid, to the 10th fastest team, it's going to be a completely jumbled order. The gaps between these teams is not huge, at least not as considerable as we see at the front. So what is going to happen is that the drivers are going to make the difference. More or less, yeah, we can say that Williams and AlphaTauri might be the teams that are at the back end of the grid, but still, expecting an Alex Albon scoring a point, I don't think it will be much of a surprise, especially because he's quite good in qualifying and he showed last year as well that he can manage a race. So let's see what happens. But the best part, I think the most excitement and the most unpredictable part of the race weekend is going to be following what happens in the midfield. Now at number 4, I have McLaren will have a disastrous weekend. Now whatever way we try to project it, it's safe to say that McLaren is heading for a disastrous weekend. Why? Because first of all, primarily the car looks undercooked. It's not developed. Team admits that it's not developed, and the worst part is the kind of body language that has been shown by the team. Lando Norris, he does not look that happy. Will Buxton talked about how he punched a wall out of frustration. There's also this thing where even at the launch, Andrea Stella was quite open in saying that the team has missed the targets and there will be a lot of work that will be put in the development of the car. When the development comes around Baku, we'll see the team maybe making progress, but for now, I'm not expecting McLaren to score points. I'm not entirely sure where the team will find itself in the pecking order. I've placed it at P8, but I'm not entirely sure if that will be the case or it will be even worse. At number 3, I have the race will be very interesting at the front. Now the reason why I've clearly stated this thing is because ultimately at the end of the day there have been a lot of proclamations that we are heading for a boring season. We're heading for another Red Bull domination or Max Verstappen domination. I don't think that is going to be the case. I still feel until we see the first race of the season, it's hard to be entirely confident of what the pecking order is going to be, especially when it comes to the gaps. Now it can be said that Red Bull has the fastest car on the grid. Again, what matters is by how much. Is it a 0.2 of a second gap or is it a 0.5 of a second gap? If it is a 0.2 of a second gap, then you can imagine Red Bull will be under pressure, because first of all, anything can go wrong at the start. Imagine Max Verstappen has a bad start, or imagine Sergio Perez ends up having a collision. Anything can happen and we can have a completely jumbled race. Plus, to add to it, there is also an added variable where maybe we don't know how good the upgrades that Mercedes or Ferrari are bringing to this particular race, how good they are going to be. Not many people are aware, or not many people have made the conclusion that Red Bull was the only team during the preseason test that ran the race configuration rear wing. Other than that, Ferrari ran a low downforce wing, Mercedes ran a high downforce wing. Now when you take these things into consideration, you can see that performance is there's still a lot of performance that needs to be uncovered or explored from both Ferrari and Mercedes. Sure, Red Bull might have the fastest car. What we need to say is how fast that car really is. Does it have 0.2 of a second advantage over the second fastest team, or does it have a 5 to 6 of a second advantage over the second fastest team? If it is, as I said earlier, if it is only 2 to 3 tenths, then we are in for an interesting season, because Bahrain is a unique track. There are going to be others, and on those tracks you might see other teams having probably more advantages over Red Bull. We don't know that yet. So let's wait and watch. Tune in for an interesting race. I'm telling you, the race is going to be fun. We don't have to wave the flags of a Red Bull or a Max Verstappen domination this season already. Okay, now at number 3, I have Fernando Alonso will be on the podium of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now, I agree this is probably the boldest prediction I've made in this entire video. For others, it might not be that bold, but at least in my view, I think there is a very high probability that Fernando Alonso will be the driver who ends up on the podium. Whether it is second, third, first, I don't know, but he will be on the podium. The reason behind it? Well, the car looks fast on track. We've talked a lot about how the cars look, and it may vary depending on the engine modes as well as the fuel levels that are being used at that particular point. But over the course of 3 days, one thing has become quite clear, that the car is very competitive. Secondly, one of the biggest issues is there are question marks over how good Mercedes is ultimately. The team ran quite a few performance runs on the 3rd day of the test. That can mean that the team is trying to basically test where it will find itself in the race. The second case could be that the team was confident already. At the end of the day, the point is that the Mercedes was still running a very high downforce swing. I don't think it will do the same thing during the race because it doesn't make sense at Bahrain. How good will Mercedes be? We don't know. But what is clear is that the team is not optimized as of yet. Similarly for Ferrari, the biggest issue is the tire degradation. The team had tire degradation on the first day, on the second, as well as the third. There was a lot of emphasis on running a low downforce swing. Now it can pay dividends at Bahrain, but overall the team would be looking at a more balanced approach. Out of all the competitors that Aston Martin might have, Aston Martin seems to be the team that is already in position with most of the things aligned and most of the ducks in a row. And at the end of the day, what the team needs to do is, it doesn't need to focus on setup on anything because most of it has already been done. The team needs to focus on race execution. If that is the only thing that Alonso and the team needs to focus, I think the team will be able to nail the first race weekend in Bahrain, and a podium, I think it's possible, and it would be amazing to see Alonso do that. Okay, now at number 1, I have Max Verstappen will win the race in Bahrain. Now I agree. I said that the race is going to be interesting. I also said that the race is going to be very close. I agree with all those things. But what I still feel is that even though the race will be interesting, I think Red Bull still holds the edge. Whether it is a 10th or 2, it is the most well-placed team right now. The team is already, the setup is fine-tuned. Already most of the checks are done. What the team needs to do as it reaches Bahrain is it needs to start fine-tuning whatever setup it wants to run in the race, whatever setup it wants during qualifying, and how to maximize the lap time. That is all it needs to do. While its competitors like Ferrari, they have a lot of check boxes that they need to tick during the weekend. When you take all these things into consideration, you have Red Bull, a team that arguably is best placed with the best car on the grid right now. It has Max Verstappen with arguably the driver that is in the league of its own. Third, it's the team with arguably the best in-race execution. When you talk about the overall package, Red Bull has it. Now, unless something goes wrong and we see probably a reliability issue or an accident or whatever, unless something goes wrong, there might be someone else who takes the win. But if that is not the case, it will be Max Verstappen winning the Bahrain Grand Prix for the first time in his career. Yeah, Verstappen has not even won a single race in Bahrain. He lost to Lewis in 2021 when he finished second, and then last year he had a DNF. So this will be the first time that he will win the Bahrain Grand Prix. So these are my views. What do you guys think? What's your view? Who are you predicting? Do let me know in the comment section. Also, please like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.